Hello everybody, we're here, it's been a while, we're here with another listing review and it's our third one, so it's me, Camilla, and Martha.
Hello.
Hi Martha.
Hi.
So we've done 2 of these so far and then we've had a bit of a break.
Yes.
Wanted to do another one before Christmas because it's a chance now to just kind of tweak everything and get all those listings ready before the really, really hectic, busy time. And today we're looking at ceramics, and it's a pot called Oval Ceramic Pot, and it's made by Lorna at the Potting Studio.
Should we just dive in?
Yeah, should we go?
Okay, go.
So
All right. So here's the beautiful pots.
Beautiful.
Oval Ceramic Pot by the Potting Studio. That's the one that we were talking about.
Yeah. There's different elements that make up the listing as it is. So it's called Oval Ceramic Pot. There's only one. It's a unique item. It's £28.50. There's the description, which we'll go into later and talk about later on there. Tags, materials, an inspiration section which has been filled in, which is great. And it's in ceramics and pottery is where it's listed. So we'll take all these elements apart and we'll look into them all individually as we go on, won't we?
We will. Okay, so on the next slide, what have we got on the next slide? Aha, okay, all right. So this webinar is going to be a little bit different because we've talked quite a bit about keywords and like practical things. We talked quite a lot about imagery last time, and this time we're going to talk about story. So this might be a good time to tell you, actually, if you are somebody who is maybe bit stuck with your business or your brand or story that just confuses you, or really anything about trying to move your business forwards, I'm going to do a quick plug for something that I'm launching next week, which is called the Unstuck Sessions. So if you nip over to my website, thestitchwriter.com, you can find out all about it there. And that is just a chance to get on to Skype with me and do some emailing together and try and figure some of these things out, because it's difficult, like when you're in the middle of it. So if that sounds like something that's interesting to you, please do go and have a look at that.
A one-to-one session that you're running?
Yeah, it's
brilliant.
So it's one-to-one. So if you're anywhere near Leicester, I would love to meet people face-to-face in Leicester, or we can do it a bit like this over Skype. So basically what the session involves is like an introduction email. So I'll ask you some questions, some prompts to get you thinking, and then we will meet either on Skype or face-to-face for 60 or 90 minutes and chat through everything. And then a follow-up email with all the notes, and then 8 weeks of email support where you can just, you basically just bounce your ideas off me and we can just talk about what's going on. So yeah, it's a one-to-one.
So learning how to tell a better story, how to copywrite, how to do your website and optimize your listings, all the stuff that we cover.
All that stuff.
Do it, people, do it.
Okay, so on this slide I've written a product isn't a story, but a story can be a great product. So I think often there's a temptation in a listing or with your website, you just think, okay, I'm selling things, so I'm going to sell my product. And like the world is so noisy now. You've got kind of social media and all these things, people trying to sell stuff. But stories, I think that stories still stand out. So we're human, we love to like feel things, we love to have that emotional connection. That is what story does. And if you are a folksy seller or a handmade maker, you've got a story. It's just kind of getting it out and telling it to people. So I've just written here that your story might be about the kind of lifestyle that you have. Maybe you've got an amazing studio. Maybe you don't think it's amazing because you're used to it, but believe me, to someone, with a totally different life, working in the city or something, that rural workshop is going to be amazing. Or maybe you started your handmade business because you've got a passion about something that you want to change, like a bigger social problem. So successful brands just tell people stories all the time. If you think about a famous example like Nike, their strapline, just do it. They're not saying we make shoes or we sell running gear. It's all about that passion and determination to kind of do your physical stuff. And successful brands do that all the while. They just kind of tell stories and make people feel things.
Perfect. Shall I move on to the next slide?
Yeah. What have we got next?
We've got this slide.
Oh, I love those photos. They're really beautiful.
Really beautiful, aren't they? So this is This is how Lorna's shop page looks at the moment. So it's called the Potting Studio, and then it says Lorna at the Potting Studio. So one of the things that when we first talked about it was that it's got her website on there. It says the Potting Studio, and then it says thepottingstudio.co.uk. And actually, it's not against the terms. It would normally be against Folksy's terms. Just going on an aside, because you're not allowed to link out from Folksy to a different selling platform. But Lorna's website links back into Folksy. So it's just, it doesn't really work very well, because you come in and you go, oh, she's sort of directing me out of here. It's a bit confusing, I think.
It's a bit of a confusing journey, isn't it, really? Yeah.
And you've worked really hard to get somebody here. You don't want to send them out. Now you've got them. Now's your chance.
Absolutely.
Draw them in and tell them that story.
I mean, you think about the amount of money the businesses spend just getting somebody into the shop. So if this person's already arrived in your shops, don't really want to just send them away again. So I think you're absolutely right. It's better to kind of use the chance to kind of draw them further into your story and into the shop. So ideas that I thought of were, where the link to her website is, I thought, could you maybe have a strapline?
Yeah.
Could you maybe try and like, this takes a little while, but you could maybe try and put the essence of what you do into one line that tells the story. So you're using every opportunity that you've got to be consistent in telling the story, because people need to hear things a lot of times. Like, they need to hear the same thing in 1,000 different ways, just gently drop over an amount of time to really get the picture of who you are. So I think that it's a good chance you could use that space to have kind of, not a slogan, I don't like the word slogan, but just
we have a thing called the tagline. So normally you'd have the name of the shop, and then you'd have your name underneath, which is where she's got Lorna, and then you've also got another section which is for the tagline, which Lorna has to fill in. So that's where you would put that kind of your story, or what. I know that when I went to Creativeful, they were talking about it being an invisible headline. So it's the sort of thing that is behind your brand. It's that essence. You could use the tagline to tell everybody what your essence is. Start communicating that.
Yeah, and again with this, like, it's ceramics and they're beautiful, but actually I think I'd be thinking more widely than just the product. I'd be thinking again about this sustainability, about the lifestyle, about slow living, and just putting yourself in the mind of your audience and just thinking about what appeals to them, because then it becomes really, really broad, and you can use it to create all sorts of other bits of content on your social media or in other places that you are online, because now you're talking about something much bigger than a pot or a vase or a jug. You're talking about a great big whole, like, world, if you like, and you can use that basis to come up with all sorts of content that's all related, that you can put and tell the same story, consistent story, in lots and lots of different places.
Yeah, exactly. There's a new book that Melanie Barnes has written called Seeking Slow, and this really makes me think of that. She talks about, we're going to review it soon actually, but she talks about that, about how arts and crafts is part of that whole movement, that slow living movement, and taking time. And I think sometimes, and I don't know if this is the case for Lorna, but sometimes, because as you said at the beginning, you're so involved in what you do that you can't step back from it, and you can't see, oh, actually, yeah, that is why I make, that is what I'm doing. I make because it makes me feel better and it slows me down, and it's all those things that you're trying to articulate to other people that you might not necessarily realize. Just that you're making a product and people are buying a product, but they never buy a product. They could buy something else. If they want a bowl, they can go to IKEA or John Lewis and buy a bowl.
Yes.
Can't they?
There's a reason that they come to Folksy. They're not in the aisle at Sainsbury's, they're on Folksy.
Yeah, exactly.
So
should we go to the next slide? Have we finished it?
Yes, next slide. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay, so again, it's just more emphasis on the story. So in your Folksy listing, is it 10, maximum of 10 photos you can do?
We just upgraded it the last few weeks. So you can now, it used to always be 5 listings, but we really wanted to increase the opportunity for people to add more. So it wasn't just about the products. So you could then add your packaging, or as you talk about the tools, materials, show all those things. We wanted to do that. So if you have a Folksy Plus account now, which is £5 a month, and then gives you free listings for that entire time, you can now get 10 photos instead of just 5.
There you go. So yeah, like you're saying, you could put your workshop tools, materials, and I've put on here, yes, even your face, because people will always go say, oh no, I can't put myself on there, I can't put my face on there, and I get that. But again, like if you can see the person making the thing, the amount of connection that gives you is huge. So it doesn't have to be like your full face. It could be like a bit of your face just doing your work, but something there that will give that connection. I think it's really, really powerful. Think as well about how you want people to feel when they see your photos. How do you want them to feel when they read about your business? Do you want, if we're talking about slow living, do you want them to feel like, oh, okay, actually I can achieve that. I feel like, yes, that could be something I want to build into my life. Think about how that customer is feeling and how you want to make them feel. So I'm probably better with words than with pictures, and I've used Pinterest a lot because I've used it to kind of pick out images that appeal to me and how I personally would like my brand and business to come across. And if you're not sure, I think it's just a really handy resource. You just get into Pinterest, make a private board, and just start picking out the things that kind of just speak to you, really, and then ask yourself, what is it about those images that I like so much? Should I be using that in my imagery? Are those images telling a certain story that I think that I want to tell? I just think it's really helpful to just solidify what kind of images you can use, really.
That's such a good idea. And keeping it private, like you say, so you're not having to share it all. It's just it's like a mood board, isn't it? That's all it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
A mood board for your business to say how can I communicate the things that my business is after through the visual images that I present to people.
Yeah,
brilliant. I think actually Lorna does that beautifully. Her photography it's
good,
really lovely. It's really good.
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
All right, so Folksy inspiration section. Okay, I think we've probably seen a few listings in the past where this hasn't been filled in, which is a shame because it's a chance to start telling the story and start drawing people into what you do. So I've just put here, take the time to write about these different aspects and put the customer at the front of your mind. What is it that they're going to want to hear about? So I think that this particular item really lends itself to the massive trend recently for slow living. I think there's also a thing about, what's her name? The famous lady who Kondo, the lady who goes and reorganises. Marie Kondo. So if it's not useful or beautiful, basically you get rid of it.
If it doesn't bring you joy, you get rid of it.
If it doesn't, that's right, if it doesn't spark joy, you get rid of it. Yeah, these are big trends, slow living, things that spark joy, and I think that this product fits really perfectly into those. So I've suggested here that you could make a bit of a mind map, just to brainstorm. Think about where you work, what your day looks like, where your ideas come from, what your workshop or studio looks like, even if that is, a spare bedroom, all of those things. Think about what you do and why you do it and why should somebody care. So I've gone back to this example about if I'm someone that lives in a city and my job's really stressful, then the idea of buying something that is like a piece of the slow living lifestyle might be very appealing to me. So I'm not necessarily buying the bowl. I didn't necessarily go out looking for a ceramic pot or whatever. I want to tap in to sustainable living. I want to know about slow living, and that is what this product can lend itself to. It's great that this inspiration section is there and you've got the opportunity. Again, I think it's sometimes a little bit hard if you're very close to your business to know what to write. And so I've just sort of written here, you could brainstorm, like this is just basic, but just as a starting point, brainstorm 5 words to describe your business. Think about how you want your customer or your reader to feel, and lead all the while with those people in mind. What aspects of your world and of what you do are going to appeal to them? You've got to get an element of yourself in there as well. If you're just a really colourful person and everything you do is covered in colour, get that in there. That's about the essence of you and what you do and who you are. So yeah, you can put keywords. We've talked loads about keywords in other webinars and blog posts. You can weave those naturally into your inspiration section when you're writing that. So we've already talked about the idea of this keyword, sustainable living, which is a really on-trend topic. It's a great keyword because the competition is still quite low, but loads of people are interested in it. Again, I've written at the bottom, to draw somebody in, it's probably more likely that a wider audience is going to be looking for things about sustainable lifestyle. They just want to know about the lifestyle. They just want to know about that world rather than a ceramic pot. Of course, some people will specifically be looking for the ceramic pot, but lots of people won't. And so it's an opportunity to draw all those people who just not really sure what they're looking for into your listing, basically. So I think inspiration section is a massive opportunity.
Yeah, brilliant. So you've had a go at rewriting the inspiration section. I think some of it's going to be covered up by our little faces, which is doing. So I'm hoping you can still read it.
I'm moving us actually around our screen.
You move it.
Yeah.
So the inspiration section before is on the left. And it says, I work with up to 4 different glazes and underglazes to decorate my pots. This current range is titled Horizons. I'm interested in the interplay of spaces, lines and shadows to create pieces that draw you in, to feel as though you're out in the wild, by the sea or in the mountains. I'm interested in the mark humans are leaving on our beautiful planet and the need for us all to slow down and be kind. I hope that in some small way, owning one of my pots gives you a moment to slow down and reflect.
Yeah.
So I like it.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I just took that and kind of rejigged it a little bit, really. Okay. Because instead of leading with the practical thing, the different glazes and underglazes, which I might read and think, not really bothered about that.
You might also just stop there as a reader. You'd read the first bit, because a lot of people skim read, don't they? And I think there's something really depressing fact about people only reading 72 characters or something. I can't remember, but people are reading less and less. And so the important things need to be at the top, the things that lead you in, aren't they?
Yes. And the thing that leads you in is an emotional hook. Yeah. So I've just basically just rejigged it to lead with that emotional hook. Embracing a slower way of sustainable living is what the pottery studio is all about. So if I'm interested in slow living, sustainable living, embracing it, I think I'll probably read on. And then you can give some more kind of, you can continue to set the scene. So I've written a little bit about the potter studio in the wilds of West Yorkshire. I've never seen Lorna's studio, don't know what it's like, but bit of artistic license. And then just sort of gone on to say that what she's inspired by. And then again, I finished it in the same way that I started it, just re-emphasizing that emotional part. My work is your invitation to slow down and reflect. So I'm not specifically talking about the pot, I'm talking about something emotional, which is a much stronger selling point.
Okay, do we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. I mean, the rewritten description is basically just taking its cue from the rewritten inspiration, which is sort of leading with that sustainable living, emotional, slow way of life. You've got that beautiful seascape word as well in the opening. Whereas if you compare that to the description before, it's quite sort of, more sort of practical, does what it says on the tin. It's a beautiful hand-thrown oval pot and this is what it measures. And I just think the description, there's a great opportunity there to be drawing people in. We're talking about, we've used as few resources as possible. So very basically, the opening part is the emotional hook. The middle part has got a few more practical details in, kind of more about how it's made. Again, the summary part is an emotional thing. It suggests what kind of person it might be good for. And then those practical things just come at the end, really. They are important because people probably want to know how much it measures. And there are a few things as well that I thought that had been missed out, which are questions that a buyer might have asked, like, can I put this in the dishwasher? If I buy it, because I've got to the bottom of this description, the inspiration, I'm sold because I love this thing, but what if it comes in the post and it's broken? So I'd want to know about that. yeah, how do I look after it? Do I need to wipe it with a damp cloth? You know, you need to say those things, but you don't need to say those things at the beginning. You need to say those things at the end, because hopefully by the time they're just the things that are kind of sealing the deal. You've already sold it to the person's heart in the description, and then you put the more practical things at the end. That's normally how I structure product description.
That's a really good tip. There were two things that I thought actually about this description. The previous one, I felt before that it was a description written by a potter for a potter. So I think it talks about how it's fired, and it talks about the width, and it talks about it being stoneware, which are all nice in that they're interesting to know, and they also reaffirm your expertise as a potter and your knowledge as a potter, which is great. But they're things that somebody, underglazes, the temperature that it's fired at, the fact that it's stoneware, they're things that other potters would understand. But a buyer, that's not why a buyer is going to buy something. Yes. They won't even necessarily make sense to them. They're good, they're sort of cementing that expertise and that influence that you've got, but they're not the reason that somebody's going to buy. And the final thing that I want to say is that her shipping period is 7 days, which might seem quite a lot to people, to wait for 7 days to receive your item. So it ships she sends it within 7 days of the order. But I think probably for this, it's not that much of a problem if she could write something possibly in the description about why, bring it into that, how will it be packaged? Say, I take time and care wrapping all your gifts or your orders to make sure they arrive safely. So please don't be surprised if it takes 7 days to arrive, something like that.
You'd actually find that perfectly acceptable, wouldn't you? Because it fits in with everything else that she's said.
I just think it needs an explanation. Yeah. But it's absolutely gorgeous. I love it.
Beautiful.
So and there's so many different ways you could go with titles, aren't there? I don't think there's a right and a wrong title, but we had a little look at the title. And what I did was I read what you'd written about the feelings and the emotion, the sustainability. And then I looked at the pot and I just thought, it looks to me like a seascape. And I don't know whether, I know Lorna's interested, and she talks about the oceans and she talks about the horizon, but I looked at it and I thought, I can see the sea, and it feels like a seascape in ceramics. And I thought it tied in well with what you were talking about the emotions and the feeling, and that's something that you could use to convey all those things in just a couple of words.
Yeah, seascape's such a beautiful word. And people decorating interiors and being inspired by the sea is, that's been a thing since like the sea was invented, man and the sea. It's just that connection, isn't it? So just even I'm sitting here thinking now about wild beaches and oceans, and it's just it moves you, doesn't it? And that word seascape really captures that. And as well, then we've gone for ceramic pot, which is it's a good keyword. So there's a bit of a mix of both. There's kind of a story driven bit of title, and then a more kind of practical bit of title. And like you said, I think that titles are trial and error, to be honest. No kind of silver bullet with titles. Keywords are good to get in there, but you don't want something kind of so boring like oval ceramic pot. It just doesn't do it justice.
No, I think also you're missing out on a lot of opportunities with only using 3 words in the title. We do have limits. I can't remember what the limit is on the amount of characters that you can have in a title, but I quite often try and do this if I'm writing titles, is have the initial title and then use a descriptor afterwards, which brings in some of those keywords that people might be searching for, like ocean or blues and greens or ceramic pots or something like that, so that you're not missing out on that opportunity, because the title is the thing that has the most weight in a search result.
Absolutely,
Okay. So also, I felt Lorna's photos, if you have a look on the left hand side of the screen, there's the photo as it was initially in the shop. So it's within the square format, but it will be how it would be seen in search results or gift guides or within her shop. And I felt like it was a bit squished, like the pot didn't have any room to breathe. And just on a very practical level, always make sure that your images are either square, the first image is sort of square, or that it fits well into a square when it's cropped. So I took then Lorna's original image, which was what we call horizontal format or a landscape format, and I just heightened it. I added a bit more height to it, so put it in a square picture. So it just has a bit more space around it, and it works better when it's cropped. So this is the listing on Folksy with the new square image. And then the second image, I've also made it square, and it's got the potter's mark in it, which I think is really nice. And actually, if it was me, I'd be tempted to use this as the main image, because I love a potter's mark. And then we've also added a picture of Lorna.
Love it.
Video. So
I love that. That's such a great storytelling picture. I love that. It's great.
Yeah, isn't it? It's lovely. And you get to see her at the wheel. Immediately, I'm hooked. I'm there.
Yes, yes, exactly.
And there's a picture there of her with her dog.
Oh, God, that's gorgeous.
It's great, isn't it? So I asked her I said to Lorna, have you got some other images? Because I'll kind of want to know more about you. So she sent these through. She's got them. You know, she just hadn't necessarily thought about putting them on a listing. Then there's this picture of pots drying on her kiln shelf.
Lovely.
Again, really nice. And then there's the original photo. This is one of her originals where you can see the oval a little bit, but I still can't. I'd quite like to have one of the top seen from above so I can understand the shape. This is a close-up of the same image with the potter's mark. And I always think I like to zoom in as a shopper. I want to see those glazes and I want to see those marks. And this allows you to do that, but it also, because it's a vertical photo, so it's a tall portrait format photo, it means that I could pin it and it would do well on Pinterest.
It's true.
It's more
very beautiful work.
Okay, so let's move on. Oh, are we already on tags?
We're already on tags.
Wow. So I had a look at the tags as they were before. So tags are, we've got lots of information about tags, we've talked about them before, but you can use a mix of single word tags or multiple word tags, mix of plurals as well as singulars if you want to. And I had a look at Lorna's tags that she's used. So she'd used ceramic pot, present, homeware, white stoneware, plant pot, pottery, landscape and gift in her tags, which is only 8 out of 15. So there's opportunity to add quite a few more, 7 with my maths, excellent work. But also white stoneware wouldn't do anything because it's all squished together as one word, and the same with plant pot. So they just needed separating out. And actually stoneware can come into materials because you can use, I think it's 5 materials tags that you have and 5 colours. So don't waste those tags putting colours or materials into your main tags. So I looked at adding things like seascape that we've talked about, ceramic pot that that Lorna had anyway, which you identified as being a strong keyword. That's the top one. But also added sustainable and slow living, just because they'll give that listing a little bit of a boost if somebody is searching for those things, which they might not, but if they are. I also added made in Yorkshire because it will just help if somebody is searching for Yorkshire. It also helps me as a curator of content. It will, if I'm looking for things in Yorkshire, it will, for a gift guide or something, it will just give it a little boost.
Loads of people search by place, so that's a really good idea. So if, you know, I've been working with a jeweler who is, her studio is up near Glasgow, and it's amazing how many people are specifically looking for jewellery made in Scotland. Yeah. So we've used the opportunity and woven that into quite a lot of her websites. So love that, made in Yorkshire and sustainable and slow living and gift for sea lovers, all of those.
Yeah, I looked at it because we're doing a gift for sea lovers soon. So I know that that's coming up, which helps. But I've also, I was looking on Twitter, there's a hashtag called journo request, which is where journalists, we talked about that before as well, but where journalists say if they're working on particular stories or gift guides or articles that they're looking for people to submit ideas for. And there was somebody recently who was looking for gift ideas for a gift for sea lovers that she was putting together. So then I googled it and went, actually that's quite a good one because there's not very much competition.
Yeah.
And there's actually quite a significant amount of people looking for gifts for sea lovers. So we're going to put a gift guide together. So I put that in there as well. Handmade ceramics, handmade pottery, those are all good ones.
But just way more specific. I mean, to be honest, you know, if you're using a tag like gift, it's just a waste, because the gift could be, oh my goodness, it could be anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't really bear, you know, specific sort of relation to this ceramic pot. So yeah, those specific ones are much better.
Yeah, much better. The other thing is that we have a theme of the day on the homepage on Folksy, and it changes every day. And at the end of every month, in our Facebook group and on our forums, we ask people for suggestions. So we ask our sellers for suggestions for the next month, and then we compile a list of those themes and the relevant tags or the tags that are related to them. So if you want to appear in that, then have a look through the list. You'll always be able to find it in the announcement section of our Facebook group or in the Folksy forums, and it's in our email as well. And have a look through that list and see what applies to your shop. It doesn't have to be completely literal. Like there's one this month that's heirloom gifts. You know, sometimes it will be elephant, sometimes it will be pumpkin, sometimes it will be more gift based, but have a look through there and see what applies. So we've got handmade pottery coming up later in the month, so I've added that there as well. It's a good tag anyway, but also it relates to that, because then it means that Lorna's items are guaranteed to be on the homepage that day. That it chooses things automatically and rotates them. So every time somebody comes on, they'll see a different view. So they'll see, I think it's 10 items, I can't remember, but they'll see a selection of items, and everybody's got just as much a chance as everyone else of appearing. And if somebody refreshes the page, they'll see new items. So it's a really good opportunity to be seen.
Yeah.
Practical details.
Okay. Okay. Well, I've just really written about the listing. We might sort of look at the product and think, well, it is a cup or it is a bowl. Again, just think about it from the customer's point of view. It's very likely they haven't come looking for something specific. With you know, often on Folksy, people might be looking for a gift or just something handmade. They don't necessarily know what. So I mean, what advice would you give, Camilla, about exactly where to list something?
Well, what I'd say is that, so most people come to Folksy through, if they're either coming from social media or they're coming through a Google, either a product advert or just an organic search result, and that's normally directly to a product page. Okay. So people very rarely search through the categories to find something they're looking for. But the other thing is that the category and subcategory that something is in affects its rankings within search results and also within Google, because it's then within that category. So it has that, in terms of metadata and all the data behind the screens, it will say, for example, if somebody was searching for a bowl, a ceramic bowl, and this is in the bowls category, it would rank higher than if they were searching for a bowl and it was in the sculpture category, sculpture and ceramics category. So it's just kind of thinking about where is the best placing. I really wouldn't worry too much about it, because people don't normally use those categories to find things. It's more important, I would say, to focus on your title and description, but just make sure that you've thought about those things as well. So
I've written the first one, Folksy is a great place to sell your work. Try to combine it with telling your story consistently on a blog about it. So if you're really into sustainable living, you might want to start blogging about sustainable living. It's not exactly about your product, but it's totally related. Very quick word about blogging. I still absolutely believe in it for creating value and really good content, but you're much better off sort of writing one really good, well thought out, kind of different post, rather than thinking you'll write 200 words every day and just kind of put them out there. because it's not like the old days where you just kind of went content. It's got to be really high quality. If you are brilliant at making things, you can show your authority about all kinds of aspects of making that thing. Still totally believe in blogging, especially with a bit of keyword research thrown in as well, and the user intent. It's a great storytelling opportunity as well. But I would say that quality definitely outweighs quantity in terms of content.
And sharing as well, is that an important part of blogging, to be able to then, once you've written it, you can't just leave it there? Do you need to then share your content? And
I mean, something that I personally do with blog posts, I don't always manage this, but this is in theory my kind of strategy, is come up with the title, something your audience is interested in, and spend time writing like 1,500 words. You don't have to do this. If you like writing, you might want to do this. You don't have to do it. But once I've written the post, I would then kind of go through and take out maybe 10 or 12 little things and turn those into lots of small bits of content for Instagram. So you're sharing what you've done in loads and loads of tiny ways and pointing back to it. Then you can use the blog post to link to another blog post. You can throw people kind of deeper into your site and deeper into your world. But yeah, definitely, if you've gone to the trouble of writing the blog post, share it wherever. If you're on Facebook, of course, you can just put the link in there. If you're on Instagram, you can take out all those little bits of content, like I said, and use those in your storytelling. There's lots of ways that you can make blogging work, really. Okay, so again, we're going with this idea of slow living. I'm asking, are there events going on that your work might fit into? Are there magazines that you could approach? You've got that same target customer, and then you made lots of really good suggestions. Simple things. I love simple things. But yeah, just think about the places that your customers are, or the person that you're trying to appeal to. What are they reading? Where are they going? How can you be at those events or be in those publications to get in front of them? Look at related keywords. We've said loads about that. And then again, link to home and lifestyle accounts that are bigger than your own on social media. Share your process and inspiration. So there's always going to be kind of accounts that are related to you, that are bigger fish, than we are. So if they're doing things that you like, kind of, you can comment on their post and keep in touch with them and build that community, and become part of something bigger in your work. I think as well, if you're going to do these things, you've got to persevere. Like all of these other ideas to promote your work, they've got to be like a long-term thing, because you won't kind of make £1 million overnight by writing one really good blog post, or you won't necessarily get in the first publication that you write to. So I just think, kind of set expectation with yourself and just say, I'm not even worried about people saying no. I'm just going to keep going, just slowly and carefully.
And it's building blocks, isn't it? You're sort of you're building this reputation and pulling in all the different strands and all the different connections and relationships. And it's kind of, first of all, it's your product photography, get that right, that's a building block, and then the listings right, and then start to connect with those other people, other folksy sellers, the magazines, the journalists, and it's all going into building this brand.
And it takes time. And I just, people, I've seen it a lot of times, people just get really despondent because they'll say, well, I sent out 2 emails to these 2 different places and nobody replied to me, and now I'm not going to do that anymore. But the fact is, you might have to have 5 or 10 points of contact with the same person before they're going to start to think, oh, okay. And if you're prepared for that, then it's fine. You just keep going and chipping away here and there and doing it. But then if you do something once and expect a massive result that first time, it's likely that that's not going to happen, and that's okay. That's normal. So just kind of set your expectation, I think, a bit more for the long term, and just keep going with these things.
And I hope she has lots of success, and I hope this is helpful for people. So if anyone's got any questions, you can always ask us. We'll post this on YouTube, and we'll also share it in the Clubhouse. So put your comments below and ask us something, and we'll do our best, won't we, to answer it. I think we'll do a blog post as well. I'll put it in a blog as well, so that people can write comments there as well and ask us questions. And how do they get in touch with you if they're interested in taking you up on your new offer?
The best place is to go to my website, which is The Stitch Writer, all one word, thestitchwriter.com, or you'll find me hanging around on Instagram at The Stitch Writer. So
brilliant.
Say hello on there.
Perfect. Hold on. Wait a second. There's just a cat. Just wants to say bye before we go.
Bye, cat.
Bye, cat. Bye, Tabby. She's been sitting there the whole time. Okay, perfect. And we'll do another one probably in the new year at some point.
Yeah, let's do it in the new year. That would be good.
Let's have a chance to sit down and recuperate.
Eat our turkey and all that.